In 1963, something unexpected rolled off the production line in Flint, Michigan. The Buick Riviera wasn't just another luxury car. It was powered by an engine so uniquely engineered that it challenged everything the performance world thought they knew about American muscle. They called it the Nailhead V8, and when it met Ferrari on equal terms, the results shocked everyone. This is the story of how a Buick became the muscle car that redefined what American performance could be. And General Motors was about to change everything. While Ford had the Thunderbird and Chrysler chased luxury, Buick unleashed something that made the automotive world stop and stare. The Riviera wasn't born from market research. It was born from pure automotive passion that had been brewing in GM studios for years. Bill Mitchell, GM's design chief, wanted to create America's answer to the Ferrari 250 GT, but with distinctly American swagger. What emerged from the design studios was nothing short of revolutionary. A fastback coupe with razor-sharp lines, hidden headlights that gave it a predatory squint, and proportions that screamed speed even when parked at the country club. This wasn't just about pretty sheet metal. The Riviera represented Buick's bold declaration of independence from the stodgy luxury car stereotype that had defined the brand for decades. While other manufacturers were building chrome-laden boats disguised as cars, Buick crafted a precision weapon disguised as a gentleman's ride. The wheelbase was perfectly proportioned. The stance was aggressive yet refined, and every line served both form and function. Under that long, sculpted hood sat the heart of the beast, the 401 cubic inch Nailhead V8, an engine so uniquely engineered that it would rewrite the rules of what American performance could be. This wasn't just another big block. This was automotive artistry that combined power with intelligence in ways Detroit had never attempted before. Chapter 2. What made the Nailhead special? The Nailhead V8 was an engineering paradox wrapped in cast iron and crowned with aluminum heads that defied every convention Detroit held sacred. When we lifted the hood of a Riviera, we weren't just looking at an engine. We were looking at functional art that challenged everything the automotive world thought it knew about making power. Picture those cylinder heads, impossibly tall, almost cathedral-like in their majestic proportions. Those towering heads housed valves so remarkably small, they looked like finishing nails driven into the combustion chambers, hence the nickname that would define an entire era of Buick performance. While every other manufacturer was obsessing over massive valves and high-flow cylinder heads, Buick's brilliant engineers were playing a completely different game with completely different rules. The combustion chambers themselves were wedge-shaped masterpieces of compact efficiency. The intake ports were designed not for maximum airflow volume, but for velocity, creating a swirling, turbulent mixture that burned cleaner and more completely than anything else rolling out of Detroit's factories. This wasn't about overwhelming the atmosphere with cubic inches. This was about surgical precision in energy conversion. The result was an engine that made its power in a way that felt almost supernatural to anyone who experienced it. While a 409 Chevy or 413 Chrysler would scream and thrash to redline, the Nailhead would simply pull, relentlessly, effortlessly, with a smooth, rolling power delivery that felt more like being pushed by an invisible giant's hand than launched by controlled explosions. Chapter 3. Built for real-world power. Horsepower sells cars and fills magazine pages, but torque wins races and moves mountains. And torque was where the Nailhead V8 became an absolute legend that redefined what fast actually meant on American roads. While Ford and Chrysler were engaged in a horsepower war that generated headlines but missed the point, Buick was quietly building an engine that rewrote the fundamental rules of what performance felt like behind the wheel. The 1963 Riviera's 401 Nailhead produced a respectable 325 horsepower, numbers that looked good but weren't earth-shattering compared to the competition. But buried in the technical specifications was the real story that would separate the Riviera from every other car on the road. A staggering 445 pound-feet of torque that hit like a sledgehammer right where drivers needed it most. Step on the accelerator of a Riviera, and we didn't get the drama and theatrics of other muscle cars. We got pure, undeniable results delivered with the confidence of superior engineering. No screaming exhaust notes, no theatrical engine histrionics, no waiting for the power to arrive. Just a low, menacing rumble that seemed to come from the earth itself, followed by forward motion that felt as inevitable as gravity working in reverse. The car didn't leap forward like a startled cat. It surged with the unstoppable momentum of a freight train, pulling us back into those deep bucket seats with the absolute confidence of an engine that knew exactly what it was capable of delivering every single time we asked. Chapter 4, a luxury muscle car before the term existed. The Riviera existed in a category of one, a magnificent contradiction that refused to be classified, contained, or easily understood by an automotive world obsessed with rigid definitions. Walk around one of these machines today, and we'll immediately understand the beautiful confusion it created in showrooms and automotive press rooms across America. The proportions screamed purpose-built performance car with that long, aggressive hood and fastback roofline, but the interior whispered luxury sedan with appointments that would make a Cadillac owner jealous. The engine promised muscle car brutality with its massive displacement and torque numbers, but the ride delivered limousine smoothness that made other performance cars feel primitive by comparison. Inside, we found ourselves surrounded by an environment that was pure automotive theater, designed to make every drive feel like a special occasion. Deep bucket seats wrapped in leather that smelled like success and felt like being embraced by luxury itself. A dashboard that curved around us like a fighter jet cockpit, complete with a full complement of gauges that actually told us what the massive engine was thinking, planning, and preparing to deliver. This wasn't the sparse, utilitarian interior of a true muscle car built for weekend warriors and drag strip heroes. This was luxury with serious teeth, comfort with genuine capability, refinement with the underlying threat of devastating performance. But step outside and circle the car again, and the visual message became unmistakable. Chapter 5, the Ferrari comparison. The story varies depending on who's telling it and where the bourbon was flowing, but the legend remains remarkably consistent across decades and continents. Somewhere, sometime in the mid-1960s, a Buick Riviera met a Ferrari on equal terms and shocked everyone present with results that challenged everything the performance world thought it knew about American automotive capability. Whether it happened at a European racing event, where American iron was typically dismissed as crude, a California hill climb where imports dominated the timing sheets, or just a chance encounter on a winding mountain road where pride was the only thing at stake, the result was always the same. The American upstart proved it belonged in conversations about serious performance cars. Consider the raw numbers, and the comparison becomes far less outrageous than it first appears to anyone familiar with both machines. The 1963 Ferrari 250 GT, that darling of the European racing set, produced around 280 horsepower from its exotic 3.0-liter V12. Impressive for its displacement and undeniably beautiful in its engineering. More importantly for real-world performance, the Ferrari's torque peak arrived much higher in the rev range, requiring skillful gear selection and precise throttle work to access the Italian car's full potential. The Riviera, by dramatic contrast, was always ready for battle. That massive rolling torque curve meant that from any speed, in any gear, at any RPM, the Buick could simply pull away with authority that made the Ferrari's peaky power delivery seem almost quaint and old-fashioned. Chapter 6, Grand Sport Awakens. By 1965, Buick's engineers and marketing department had finally realized they were sitting on something genuinely special, something that could compete with the most serious performance cars from any manufacturer on Earth. And they made the bold decision to let the Nailhead V8 completely off its corporate leash for the first time in its distinguished career. The Grand Sport package transformed the already potent Riviera from a luxury performance car into something that belonged in heated conversations with the most serious muscle cars of the era. This wasn't just a badge upgrade or a marketing exercise. This was Buick throwing down the gauntlet and declaring war on every performance car manufacturer in the world. The numbers alone told a story that made competitors nervous and customers excited. The 401 Nailhead now breathed through dual 4-barrel carburetors that fed it air and fuel like a hungry beast, to an absolutely tire-shredding 475-pound feat that could break traction in 3 gears. But the real transformation was in the carefully selected details that turned a luxury performer into a focused weapon designed for serious driving. The rear axle ratio dropped to an aggressive 3.42-to-1, shortening the gears dramatically and making the already responsive engine feel even more explosive off the line. The suspension received heavy-duty components and recalibrated settings that reduced body roll and sharpened the car's responses to steering inputs. Heavy-duty cooling systems were added to handle the increased heat load of sustained performance driving that the Grand Sport was clearly designed to handle. Chapter 7. The Nailhead's Strange Engineering. The Nailhead V8 was a magnificent engineering oddity that succeeded precisely because it ignored every piece of conventional wisdom that Detroit's other manufacturers held sacred. While every other engine builder in America was chasing bigger valves, higher compression ratios, and maximum airflow numbers that looked impressive on paper, Buick's brilliant engineers were pursuing a completely different philosophy that would influence engine design for decades to come. Those tiny valves that gave the engine its distinctive nickname weren't a compromise forced by budget constraints or manufacturing limitations. They were a carefully calculated feature that demonstrated superior understanding of combustion dynamics. The result was an engine that made significantly more power per cubic inch than its technical specifications suggested should be possible, while running cleaner and more efficiently than its contemporaries throughout the rev range. The combustion chambers themselves were marvels of compact efficiency that maximized the conversion of fuel energy into useful work. The wedge-shaped chambers promoted rapid, complete burn characteristics, while the relatively small surface area reduced heat loss to the cooling system. This meant more of each drop of gasoline's energy was converted to useful work instead of waste heat that had to be dissipated through the radiator. But the Nailhead's most distinctive characteristic was how it responded to simple modifications that would transform other engines. While conventional engines needed extensive cylinder headwork and expensive internal modifications to make serious power gains, the Nailhead would wake up dramatically with basic breathing improvements. Chapter 8. End of the Nailhead Era. By the late 1960s, the automotive landscape was changing faster than a Riviera pulling through the gears on an empty highway, and even the mighty Nailhead couldn't escape the relentless march of progress and marketing demands that were transforming Detroit's priorities from engineering excellence to magazine-friendly specification sheets. The horsepower wars were reaching their absolute peak, with manufacturers building engines that made impressive numbers look good in comparison tests, regardless of how they actually performed in real-world driving conditions where customers would actually use them. The new 430 and later 455 cubic inch engines certainly made more peak horsepower and generated more impressive dyno charts that pleased marketing departments, but something essential and irreplaceable was lost in the translation from intelligent engineering to brute force displacement. The replacement engines were significantly wider, considerably heavier, and measurably less efficient in their energy conversion. They made their power at much higher RPM ranges, requiring more frequent gear changes and more dramatic throttle inputs to access their potential. The smooth, effortless power delivery that made the Nailhead so distinctively superior was replaced by more conventional performance characteristics that felt powerful, but decidedly less magical. Drive a late production Nailhead Riviera back-to-back with an early big block car today, and we'll immediately understand the magnitude of what was sacrificed on the altar of peak horsepower numbers and marketing perception. Chapter 9. Underrated Muscle. The Riviera's complicated place in muscle car history remains a fascinating study in how automotive culture's rigid definitions and expectations can overshadow genuine achievement and superior engineering. Too refined for the street racing crowd that valued drama over effectiveness. Too powerful for traditional luxury car enthusiasts who prioritize comfort over capability. Too early for the muscle car movement that wouldn't crystallize until later in the decade. The Riviera existed in the uncomfortable spaces between established categories. Consider the revealing timeline. The first Riviera hit American streets in 1963, a full year before the Pontiac GTO would create the muscle car template that defined the entire movement. While Pontiac was busy stuffing big engines into mid-sized chassis and calling it revolutionary innovation, Buick was already building and selling a machine that delivered genuinely superior real-world performance wrapped in authentic luxury and sophisticated engineering. But muscle car culture, as it developed through the late 60s, was never really about sophistication, intelligence, or refined engineering solutions. It was fundamentally about drama, noise, theatrical performance, and raw specification numbers that looked impressive in magazine comparison tests and bench racing sessions. The Riviera's smooth, sophisticated power delivery and refined behavioral characteristics actually worked against it in a rapidly developing market that increasingly equated violence and drama with legitimate performance capability. While other muscle cars announced their presence with lumpy idle patterns and aggressive exhaust notes that could wake the neighborhood, the Riviera delivered its devastating performance with whisper-quiet sophistication that some interpreted as evidence of weakness rather than strength. Chapter 10. What it still represents today. More than half a century after the last Nailhead-powered Riviera rolled off the production line in Flint, Michigan, these magnificent machines remain a powerful statement about American automotive confidence, engineering capability, and design excellence that feels almost revolutionary in its boldness and clarity of vision. This was Detroit operating at its absolute creative and technical peak, building cars that were simultaneously sophisticated and powerful, visually stunning and mechanically brilliant, completely unafraid to challenge the established international order with distinctly American solutions to performance and luxury. Roll up to any car show, concours event, or automotive gathering in a well-maintained Riviera today and watch the reactions ripple through the crowd like electricity. The design still looks fresh after decades, still looks purposeful and intentional, still carries that unmistakable aura of dangerous elegance that made Ferrari drivers genuinely nervous back in 1963, when these cars were new and proving their capabilities. The proportions remain absolutely perfect. The details still matter in ways that modern cars often miss, and that distinctive fastback silhouette continues to turn heads and start conversations with the same authority and presence it commanded when Nixon was president and muscle cars ruled American highways. But start that legendary Nailhead V8, and we'll immediately understand why this particular car shocked the automotive world and continues to command respect from enthusiasts who appreciate engineering excellence over marketing hype. That distinctive rumble, deeper and more purposeful than any other American V8 of its era, announces that this machine was built by people who understood power in ways that transcended simple displacement figures and compression ratios. The Buick Riviera proved that American muscle could be sophisticated and devastating at the same time. It was the car that shocked Ferrari and changed what we thought possible from Detroit. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more automotive stories, and let us know in the comments what classic car we should cover next.